Hello and welcome back. If you've ever been in a relationship, whether romantic or otherwise, you know relationship is one of the most vital aspects of maintaining a connection. But what happens when you choose to ignore someone? What are the Bruchian and psychological effects of silence, and how does this impact the other person? How does Stoicism, an ancient surety about controlling emotions and thinking, apply to this situation? In today's video, we you're ignoring someone, particularly someone you care about, affects them, why it's not the healthiest way to handle conflict, and how Stoic principles can offer insight into how we should approach situations of emotional neglect in relationships. So, without further delay, let's dive right in. The immediate impact of ignoring someone can feel like a moment of control. You may think that by withdrawing, you are creating space or even sending a signal that something is wrong. However, what most people don't realize is that the effects of being ignored are far-reaching. The first to understand is that being ignored doesn't just leave the other person with a feeling of abandonment. It often creates of emotional and psychological responses for the person being ignored. This experience can feel like rejection. It's not just the absence of communication or connection, but the silence, the complete withdrawal of attention and affection. For her, it could evoke feelings of confusion. Why is he ignoring me? What did I do wrong? If you haven't communicated the reasons behind your behavior, she may begin to take it personally, even though, in reality, the cause and issue may be entirely within your control. This is where the harm begins. The uncertainty of being ignored can stir feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, and anxiety. She might start questioning her own worth or wondering if she's done something to deserve this kind of treatment. Emotional isolation sets in, and the longer the silence persists, the more intense the emotional turmoil becomes. In fact, being ignored can have serious implications for self-esteem and emotional well-being. So, why do people ignore others in the first place? There are many reasons why someone might choose to withdraw from a situation or silence a partner. You might be angry, hurt, or simply overwhelmed by your emotions. However, ignoring someone often feels like a safer alternative to confrontation. Some people might use silence as a form of punishment, an emotional timeout for themselves or the other person. However, ignoring someone's means of dealing with conflict is inherently problematic. It doesn't resolve the issue at hand, and it certainly doesn't foster healthy communication. Instead, underlying problem, you are leaving it unresolved and letting it fester. Here's where Stoicism comes into play. Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus taught us the importance of controlling our responses to external events. They believed that while we cannot control what others do, we can control our own actions and reactions. When you choose to ignore someone out of frustration, anger, or confusion, you are allowing those negative emotions to dictate your behavior. Stoicism isn't just about managing your emotions in isolation, it's about how you relate to others. Stoics believe that our relationships should be rooted in virtue, wisdom, and rational thinking. In the context of conflict or emotional distress, Stoicism teaches the best course of action is not to withdraw, but to approach the situation with patience, understanding, and communication. One of the cultures of Stoic philosophy is recognizing that our reactions are within our control, even when our emotions might be pushing us in a different direction. When someone wrongs us, the Stoic response is not anger or retaliation, but understanding and rationality. Ignoring someone from a Stoic perspective is a failure to take responsibility for our emotional reactions. Rather than allowing silence to create further disconnection, a Stoic would respond with calm and clarity. What's happening, why they are upset, and act in a way that aligns with their higher values, not their immediate emotions. The psychological impact on her can be far more significant than you might initially realize. Beyond the initial confusion, prolonged neglect can cause deeper emotional damage. Over time, being ignored can result in heightened anxiety, self-doubt, and even depression. Women, in particular, tend to be more initially expressive and attuned to the feelings of those around them. When they feel dismissed or neglected, it can feel like their emotional needs are not being met, leading to feelings of loneliness, even when they're surrounded by others. Moreover, the longer the silence lasts, the more uncertainty begins to cloud their judgment. They may replay every interaction, every conversation, trying to pinpoint where things went wrong. This self-self-tune lead to a breakdown in their sense of self-worth. In a worst-case scenario, the person being ignored can come to believe that they are undeserving of love, respect, or attention simply because they've been neglected. From a Stoic viewpoint, this kind of emotional turbulence is something we must take responsibility for. If our actions and someone else's emotional harm, we are falling short of our Stoic ideals. We are failing to uphold the virtue of justice by treating someone unfairly. One of the core principles of Stoicism is understanding the difference between what we can control and what we cannot. In relationships, we cannot someone feels or reacts, but we can control how we behave. Ignoring someone, especially as a response to conflict, is a reactive behavior that doesn't align with Stoic virtues of wisdom, courage, and justice. Instead of withdrawing, Stoicism calls us to face the situation with clarity. If you're upset, express why you feel the way you do. If you're hurt, communicate it honestly, but do so in a way that is respectful and not punitive. Stoic thinkers like Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of responding to situations with logic and virtue, rather than allowing our emotional reactions to dictate our actions. By using Stoic principles, you can prevent emotional harm and keep the integrity of your relationships intact. So, how can Stoicists help you avoid the pitfalls of ignoring someone and build stronger, more resilient relationships? Self-reflection is a key Stoic practice. Pause to consider your emotions before you react. If you feel the urge to ignore someone or withdraw emotionally, take a moment to understand why you feel that way. Is it anger, frustration, or disappointment? Reflect on your emotions and decide how you want to respond, not just react impulsively. Effective communication is also essential. Stoicistly of the reaction. If you're upset or hurt, it's important to communicate that in a calm and respectful manner. Don't allow silence to create misunderstanding. Instead, express with wisdom and fairness. Focus on what you can control. Remember, you can't control their emotions or reactions, but you can control how you respond. By choosing to act with virtue, patience, understanding, and kindness, you create a healthier environment for both of you. Lastly, empathy is crucial. Stoicism used to be aware of the emotional impacts of our actions on others. Before you withdraw, think about how your actions might affect someone else. Would you say you make things better or worse? Consider their feelings and try to approach the situation with empathy. In conclusion, when you ignore someone, the consequences go far beyond what you might expect. The emotional and psychological effects on the person being ignored can be deep and lasting. However, by embracing Stoic principles, you can handle emotional conflicts in a healthier, more constructive way. Stoicism teaches us to act from a place of virtue, clarity, and respect. Rather than resorting to silence or avoidance, we can choose communication, empathy, and emotional responsibility. By doing so, we can navigate relationships with more wisdom and create deeper, more meaningful connections with those around us. Thank you for watching! If you found value in this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who might benefit from a bit of Stoic wisdom. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever ignored someone in a relationship, or have you been the one who was ignored? How did you handle it? Let's continue the conversation and learn from each other's experiences.